Sorry about that.
No worries, I had to reset as well.
DCS decided death before dishonor.
Well, we somehow made it back anyway after the last one, so call that a success.
I got hit. I don't know where. I couldn't see any bullet damage. Well, not from that level of zoom out without getting that noise. But my front gear didn't register as fully down. It was down, but not, you know, locked. And my laser wasn't firing anymore.
Yeah, I noticed just the last contact zone flying around, there was a lot of, like, sort of the individual insurgents with AKs and things, and, I mean, they just, yeah, you could just take a hit anywhere and not know about it.
Rearming complete.
They can start chipping away, I think, especially at your engines. You know, I've seen the power performance drop there if you've got a couple of AK rounds.
Yeah, definitely.
Because contrary to popular belief, even though you are armored, you know, that people read, it's, you know, armored up to splinters of 20 mil and etc. No, not everywhere. Select locations, select angles and distances, and no, concentrated AK-5 will bring an attack helo down. It's just what it is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's true for real life. It's you know, you can't protect everything 100% for sure.
And even that protection's not, you know, golden, you know, cockpit rated for 12 points. Yeah, was it 12.7? Was, yeah.
Yeah,
but an AK can still get you.
You can't protect everything. There will be ways through to the engine compartments, there's ways through to the drive shafts, there's ways through to everything.
If I recall, the rotor master was actually like the most, you know, armored thing, or sturdy.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I know they designed these things to be pretty tough, so they thought of most things, but at the end of the day, it's still a helicopter, and it's still got some vulnerabilities.
Okay. Abris is saying to the left. There's 3 contacts. I think that might be where we died before. Well, not died, but I mean, was forced to retreat, nobly.
Yeah, that was where we had a bit of a dance.
I've changed up my rockets to the guns. I mean, for the most part, it seems like Vickers stuff, and the rest are, you know, light dudes that need either splash damage or UPKs.
Yeah, I think the biggest threat there was small arms. There was a few man pads and a lot of AKs.
There was some thing firing orange traces. It got me a BTR or some kind of thing.
Yeah, well, let's head on up there and take a look. If we creep in, once we get close to the contact zone, then we'll just go in really low and slow and just take each corner for corner, see what we find. Most likely we need to take out the sort of ground insurgents and AKs first.
Sounds like a plan. I mean, as long as we're sticking like 3.5 clicks out, I think we're safe from everything there. You know, when we corner.
Yeah.
You wanna take lead?
Follow in and copy from behind.
Are you lifting off first?
I'll follow you. You probably you had a better oversight of it there. I was kind of a bit focused, put in engine.
I just go fuck it and fly in the direction, so no, not necessarily.
Okay.
Besides, I need to practice flying in formation. I just don't do it that often, so.
Yeah, well, sure, no worries. If you want, we can just go and do some formation practice in a clear area to start with.
I still need to watch some videos to catch up on all that. Let's just head to target.
Yeah, I mean, I can help you run through it. I've done a hell of a lot of formation in my time, so I could probably give you a few pointers.
Yeah, why not?
Alright, well, I'll lift up. We'll go up to, yeah, let's head northwest. Should be fairly safe there. depart straight out on the heading of 330. Formation, it's very dependent on a sympathetic lead as well. If you have an arsehole as a lead who's just fucking around, then you're never going to get in. So I guess you're in trail at the moment?
Yeah, still trailing.
Gotcha. I'll just slow down a little bit more and just come.
I'm 700 meters away. Closing. 600.
So pull up into a position which is around, yeah, give yourself sort of 45 degrees on my left.
Speed.
Right now, a little, about 180. 175. Ground speed 165.
Don't think you can see me.
No, I can't, not out of the cockpit, unless I go to F2. Yeah, okay, I see you nicely on the F2 menu. Oh, that looks pretty good. So have you done a bit of formation with helicopters before, a fair bit?
Not really, but then again, you know, the number of frequency of people flying in the non-US time zones, I mean.
Pick up 2 reference points and keep them aligned. So take something, for example, the sponson and someone in the cockpit, draw a line between them and that's your side picture, and just keep your eyes on that and follow everything, the small movements visually.
You mean my sponson son or yours?
Yeah, or mine. So if you're looking at your right window now, and you'll be looking at, for example, just pick up a reference point, any reference point on my left sponson, see where that corresponds to somewhere else on the fuselage, and then that's basically your line up, and then just keep those references, basically just pick a point on the sponson, keep it locked to the reference point on the fuselage. And then that's just very small adjustments, control adjustments from there. That looks good. For example, if you see the tank on the far left of my sponson, see where that intersects and hits, probably somewhere along the nose edge of my aircraft. And then keep them lined up. You basically just use those as your line-up references.
I'm quiet because I'm concentrating.
I understand, no worries. Once you feel comfortable with that, try and creep a little bit further forward and then just see how the reference points look different. So again, using the tank on the sponson, see where that corresponds to the fuselage, and then you have a new position set and a new reference. And then basically your whole life, your whole references now are the reference points on my aircraft. You should hardly look into your own instruments you're taking all of your cues off my aircraft and the 2 reference points or 3 reference points that you've picked on my aircraft to keep lined up. That would mean that later on, if we're going to do a turn or a descent, again, all the references, you just follow the reference points and keep them all lined up. And don't lose your reference points.
I do find that means I'm staring at you the whole time instead of staring at the cockpit at threads.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. So your role really when you're in close formation like this is literally just to keep your eyes on the lead aircraft or the aircraft in front of you all the time. So the lead aircraft is then taking the role for the navigation and any target threat. This, of course, is not something we do in a tactical environment where there's a high threat, because you've really only got one set of eyes out.
Yeah, I was about to say, especially probably not in the K-50.
No, you do it really for transit, so when you want to keep the formation tight as possible. It keeps also the radar signature down to a minimum, so you know you're going to get picked up by radar somewhere. You don't want to give away how many aircraft you are in your formation, so you keep it tight. Also, it looks good for air shows. The other advantage of fairly close formations is if you have several aircraft transporting troops, you keep yourselves fairly close together where there's not a huge threat on the ground. You might have a fairly small landing area and you go in and land in formation as well. There's also weather implications. There's many reasons why you might do a close formation.
Out of interest, do you just study this or do you pilot?
Yeah, no, I'm a pilot. I was in the army before and now I fly HEMS.
Airframe?
Right now I fly EC-145, Airbus 145.
And in the military?
I flew Lynx.
Okay.
And several other things in between that. And after that I flew Super Pumas, S-92s, S-76, Augusta Westland 169, S-76, yeah, a few other things as well.
So, majority of your time more in transport, helo? Not that that's an insult or anything, just, you know, questioning.
No, that's not an insult, no. Well, Lynx was utility, so not so much transport. We had a whole range of tasks. In the beginning it was anti-tank, so we had tow missiles on the side. And then after that, utility, so it could be a lot of casevac, could be snipers, could be recce, could be really whatever you want. Small insertion, also special forces type things. Really anything that the creative brigade commander could think of.
Cool. I'm using Flight Director because I was finding I was just using the trimmer a lot. And the small adjustments.
Yeah, trim is key in this. When you're flying in close formation, good trim is really, really important. Once you get it nicely trimmed out, just leave it there and then it's just small inputs. Unfortunately with this KA we don't have beep trim, so a lot of other aircraft you've got beep trim on your cyclic and collective, so you can just make small beep inputs. So you want to try a gentle descent to landing, staying in formation? We'll just do some, we won't do a landing, but we'll just do some descending and then we'll climb again.
Your call.
Yep, okay. Well, I'll start a gentle descent. So basically don't look in at the instruments or anything, just keep your references locked on outside, so looking at my aircraft, keep your line-up references and just follow them down. I won't do any sort of rapid descents or anything.
Fortunately, we don't have heavy wind. We've got 1 meter from 180. So basically our 10, 11 o'clock.
And you just follow and keep your references. initially it'll be about 500 per rated to 10.
Messed up there briefly.
Just take the time you need then just to readjust to the new situation, pick up your references again.
Overcompensating, of course.
Yeah, so just small inputs, just tiny little inputs. Nice and relaxed on the controls. I'm just looking at it in the F2 view right now, it looks pretty good.
I was finding I was clenching the stick there.
Yeah. You'll probably get a cramp in your shoulders and your arms fairly soon, but half of the course. If you want to take a break, you can shoot on ahead and I'll form up on your left.
No, I'm liking this trading unless you wanna.
Oh, cool. Stay with that then. Right, I'm going to level off here at this altitude. So literally all I'm going to do is just a little bit of collective. I'm going to try and not do too much with the speed or with the aptitude. And you just keep your references and follow my lead. Level flight there.
So tell me, how are you finding the power on the KA50?
Yeah, stacks. It's good with the power. I gotta say, of all the helicopters in DCS, I think the KA50 is probably about the best modelled with the small details. Things like the trim actually works pretty well with the force trim release. And the control inputs generally seem to be a little bit more nuanced and a little bit more realistic.
Interesting. I'm still trying to figure out some stuff about coax, but of course there aren't many pilots of that. You know, you might find a few people that done the KA32, you know, the utility 27 and 32 side, especially the firefighting. But you know, for example, do you have, you know, when you cross translational lift, you know, do you get the shadows then?
It generally feels like a modern helicopter. It's stable. Modern helicopters are stable, and it feels pretty good, I've got to say. The Huey is also quite nice, but just sometimes the control inputs seem to be a little too unpredictable. And the trim's a disaster.
Why come?
Say again?
Why come on the trim disaster for the UE?
Yeah, just the fact that it's a sim limitation, but we have limited movement, of course, with our cyclic stick in this sim. Hitting the trim release, force trim release, then or trim reset in the UE seems to really just upset things. In actual fact, all the trim release should do is just literally just release any stab.
Infield 6, defending Sam
and reset the data.
6-7 for 70.
Are you using a force feedback stick, by the way?
And put it on the helicopters in much the same way as is implemented in the fixed-wing planes in DCS, where we have it in all our modern helicopters. So, yeah, I mean, you can kind of cheat it in the Huey and DCS using the trim for stick forward, back, and side and left, and so on. But it's a bit, it's a bit harsh.
Are you using force feedback or spring stick?
Yeah, I'm using Warthog, so I've got, basically for this, I've used the Warthog with the F-18 add-on, and for the Huey, just use the normal F16 grip.
Oh, so you got all the grips, Warthog, I mean, Thrustmaster.
Yeah, basically I got both of them because originally I was really flying a lot with the A10, really enjoyed the A10. So, and then started playing with the helicopters, and I found that especially for this and for the Huey, it's nice to have a few extra buttons and on the cyclic, just to offload that mouse work. It's very nice when we get some decent collectives coming in. I see Verpil, or whatever you call them, are supposedly going to be releasing a decent helicopter collective.
Yeah, I've seen that they're releasing one. I hope it's decent.
Yeah, that'd be really good because right now it's that's the one thing that really holds back a lot of realism and immersion in the helicopter.
Thing though is, if I were to get a proper collective, I would definitely at that point need to get a new stick. Because I'm using the T16 on the Thrustmaster, and that's got very limited buttons, so the throttle's kind of making up for it.
Yeah, exactly. What throttle are you using?
TCWS. It's the T16,000 package. So it's the slider.
Yep, I mean they all work. They work. It's pretty good. I mean I'm using the Warthog throttle and basically just have it mounted vertically, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. But I do occasionally fly Tomcat and jets and so on, although not for the last while because I don't play DCS that often actually.
Yeah, I tried a few of those. I mean, and I found there's a lot of really good models, but for me anyway, once I started mixing and matching too much, I was kind of never getting particularly good at anything. So I really pretty much stuck with the A10 and got pretty competent with the A10. Really enjoyed that. I mean, it's just an awesome platform for what it does.
I did back in the day. It was either that or the Sharker was my first proper module that I was playing around with. But the problem with the A10 that I had was I started getting to it just when all the F-18s got all their cool new air-to-ground missiles and toys. So the servos are set up so everyone launches from the same spot. And then by the time the A10 got there, you know, after this incredibly long flight, all the Hornets had already done 2 or 3 sorties each. And there was nothing left.
Yeah, exactly. That's the frustration I get with the A10 as well. Sometimes it's just too damn slow, and especially with evasion as well. When you suddenly get dropped in on by an enemy fighter or SAM somewhere start opening up on you, you're so limited in how you get away from it.
So I still need to try the tank killer.
And head-mounted sides, it's really intuitive just to find and locate targets and then drop in a weapon system, but you definitely need close air support and something else just to keep the skies above you free.
True. It was fun learning all the emergency procedures and stuff on that though.
Yeah, it's an awesome bird. That's another really survivable machine as well.
I did not know that the Stalinium version, the SU-25, actually also has got a titanium tub.
Oh, right, okay. No, I didn't know that.
And they were considering that titanium tub for this very craft here.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because they took the Schwal, because it was, you know, no time for the custom development of a specific, you know, bespoke targeting system, and not enough time, because supposedly they wanted the thing out ASAP, but then, of course, it was 10 years in the stalled, you know, competition. But then they considered getting the, well, they got the Schwal, because, you know, it's a single pilot proven, you know, air-to-ground thing, creeping closer. But they also considered the titanium tub, but then due to where the impacts were going to land, if you're a helicopter, you know, the angles from the shots, they reckon that a steel one was going to be more protective, even though it's heavier. So that's what you got.
Yeah, also cheaper.
I suppose easier to repair in the field.
Yeah, for sure. everything's a compromise. No, I've got to say I'm enjoying the shark here there. I've only just come back to it. I've just started using it a couple of days ago, trying to get to grips with everything, and it's a really good model.
It's got a ridiculous amount of depth though.
Yeah, it does, yeah. Alright, you look like you're in a fairly good position there. How about we try a turn to the right and see if you stay in formation?
Hey, firm. So do I go up high and swivel about wide and fast?
And you just have to, again, keep the references. So you're going to end up, of course, needing a fairly healthy amount of extra collective just to keep yourself in that angle. So you're going to, of course, gain some height as we turn around the turn. You're going to be like on the outside of the turn, as it were.
Yeah, outside and high, sort of keeping the same relative angle as you.
Exactly, yeah. It's a lot easier in aeroplanes and helicopters, but we'll give it a go. And turning in 3, 2, 1, now. I'll just hold this bank on for a while and just keep going around until you can just play around and adjust your position.
I needed to give a lot more nose down to keep up with that. I'm not saying you did it too fast, just, you know, it was more than I expected.
Yeah, exactly. It takes a little while. The other option you can do if you're just a two-ship in a close formation and you do a turn is, for example, if you're on the left and I start turning right, is that you drop around, go in behind me, and then form up on the right in a lower position. I'll roll out again on a heading of 240.
I've lost visual. Ah, okay, I completely overshot that.
No worries, I'm just over the, yeah, I guess you see me.
Read you loud and clear.
Rolling out here, heading 240.
That needed a lot more power than I thought, you know, to keep in the turn.
Yeah, it does, yeah. It's not easy, especially if you're going at fairly heavy speed, so the easier option there then is to just cross over behind and then join up on the other side. Being on the outside of the turn in a helicopter is not easy.
Yeah, that was no longer on the subtle scale adjustment, that was a... And it wasn't a violent bank that you were doing. As yet, I think for this, flight director is a lot cooler.
Yeah, the flight director works pretty good in this.
Because of the constant micro adjustments, rather than just, you know, keep course and... I mean, if we were in perfect synchronized trim and there was no turbulence, sure.
exactly.